Hello, cheapskaters. Oh, excuse me. Let's start again. Hello, cheapskaters, and welcome to our channel. My name is Kath, and I'm the creator of the Cheapskates Club, where our goal is to live life debt-free, cashed up and laughing. If this is your first time visiting a live show or you're watching on the replay, welcome. It's really nice to have you join us. And of course, if it's not, welcome back. How is everyone tonight? Let me just click on those comments. Boy, you've been a chatty bunch so far. Hello, Tabitha and Beverly. Hi, Mary. Hi, Delaney. Greg Evans, Kylie, Michelle, Natalie, Sandra, Beverly Walsh, Utah, Leanne. Hi, Jane, Lynette, Bobstar. Haven't made a live for ages, but we're glad you could. Okay. Alrighty. Tonight we're going to talk about food security, more about food security, but about planning our food security. How do we plan to fill the pantry? How do we plan long-term food storage? How do we plan what we're going to store? How much of each thing are we going to store? It does take planning. It's not something that you can just, zip down the street and grab your trolley and race through the supermarket and come home and bung it on the shelf and, hey, job's done. It takes planning. But it doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be scary. It can just become a part of your normal routine. Now, why do I think food security is important? Because life is full of the unexpected. We can hope and pray for an easy breezy life and we just coast through it and nothing ever goes wrong. But we all know going to go pear-shaped at some stage. It's going to go pear-shaped at some stage. For us, it was when we both lost our jobs. So it could be unemployment, unexpected sudden unemployment. It could be illness. It could be floods. It could be cyclones. It could be a thunderstorm that wrecks the roof. It could be a car accident. It could be all sorts of things. A job transfer that disrupts the whole family. Those things cost money. On the surface, they might look good, but they still cost money. They cause a disruption in your life. There's all sorts of things that can affect us. And so we need to have food security, because if we can feed our families, that's a really big stressor gone. If you know that you've got breakfast, lunch and tea, maybe some snacks for your family for however long that you decide you want to be able to do that before you have to panic, that's a stress that's gone from your life. So you can concentrate your energies on the other things, the things that are causing the disruption. So food security isn't just for preppers. It's not just for the people that like to dig holes in the ground and bury their stuff. It's not an extreme thing. And food security is not hoarding. Building your pantry, building a stockpile of food is not hoarding. If, imagine I'm saying that in capitals, if you use it. Now, which brings me up to this question here, this comment here from Bobstar. Bought a freeze dryer. Fabulous. That is fabulous. I think that is an amazing investment. It's going to take a long time to get that investment paid back, but it is an investment. It will only be an investment, though, if you actually freeze dry food you eat and food you use, and then use that food that you have freeze dried. The big selling point is for freeze dryers, oh, you can freeze dry food and it's good for 20 years. And that's wonderful. But if you are putting all your effort, all your money into building food to have in 20 years' time, what are you eating now? So you need to be sensible about it. Any food, any pantry, any food security item needs to be used. So to know how to do that, you've first got to know what you're going to store. Simple as that. And congratulations, you'll love your freeze dryer, I'm sure. Okay. All right. So how long do you plan for? It's a personal thing. It's entirely up to you. How long do you want to not have to shop? If you lost your job, if there was major car expense and the savings that you had in your car fund don't cover it, how long do you want to not have to shop to be able to feed your family, keep your house clean, keep yourselves clean? Personally, my advice for everyone is at least 1 month. At least 1 month. Simply because it's only 4 weeks. You know, that's annual leave for most Australians. So to not have to shop for your annual leave. My pantry is much bigger so that we can last longer. That's my choice. But it's very personal and it's entirely up to you. You can go for 1 month and everyone should have at least a week's worth of food in their house. Oh, sorry. The weather is really playing up today with me today. 3 months is good, 6 months is good, 12 months is better. If you want to push it out, you're going to have to really think about it. So if you want to extend it from 12 months to 2 years, you need to really think about what you use, how much of each thing you use, and how long it is going to keep. Now, you can go to the video on Forever Foods, and I'll put a link in the description box to the video on Forever Foods, because those things last for just about forever. But there are other things that will only stay nice for 2 or 3 years. And those things include anything in a ring pulled tin. So diced tomatoes, tomato soup, I don't know, pineapple that comes, fruits that come in the ring pull tins. They do not last as long as the old-fashioned, properly clamped down tins where you had to use the can opener. So if you can get 2 years out of those, that's really good. The seals fail. They just do, with fluctuations in temperature, being moved around, if they get knocked or whatever, those seals fail. They are not a good long-term food storage item. So while they're handy to have, you need to be aware that those things aren't going to keep as long as your beans. Now, your beans will last for 20 years or longer, but they won't be good to eat. The older your beans and lentils, your legumes are, the harder they become, the drier they become. So they're still edible. They won't make you sick. They won't hurt you, but they're not going to be as appetizing. So you need to think about that when you're trying to decide how long you want your pantry to last you. think about those things. Did I answer that? Went off on a bit of a tangent, didn't I? Delaney answered it too. Yeah. Annabelle started with 3 months, then 6. And with grandkids, it's not enough. It's not. The more people you have, the more people that are relying on your pantry, the bigger it needs to be. I'm going to knock that off again this week, aren't I? The bigger it needs to be, if that makes sense. Delaney's put the link to the Forever Foods video in the comments, folks. Great. Leanne, the ring pull tins, look, they're really convenient. Although I have to tell you, my fingers don't work very well anymore. Some days I can barely pick up a blinking hairbrush. So trying to open any of those ring pull cans is a nightmare. I know they're supposed to be easier, but give me a clamp down can with an old-fashioned twisty can opener any day. So much easier to use if your hands don't work properly. But yeah, the seals fail. Now, this last summer, because we had such weird weather, I actually lost 2 tins. 2 tins, the seals failed, both on tomatoes. And it's really annoying. It's really annoying. I found one by accident, and the other one I found when I was restocking. So you need to be aware of that. But if you keep your pantry, for instance, in the garage, or it might be in a shed outside or somewhere where it gets very hot and very cold and very hot and very cold, keep an eye on your ring pull tins, cans. Yes, growing children need more nutrition. If you're building your pantry for a prepper type situation where, you know, grid down, there's marauding gangs and, you know, there's no shops and whatever, then you will build a very different type of pantry, because that pantry needs to be calorie rich and nutrition rich, simply because the work you are doing, you will be doing a lot more physical labor. If you don't have power, you know, you'll be doing everything by hand. You'll be sweeping the floor, not vacuuming. You'll be hand washing the dishes. You'll be carting water to wash the dishes or for drinking. You'll be chopping wood for a fire, that sort of thing. So determine in your planning, what sort of, why you're building food security, to save money, to, you know, beat inflation, to build a buffer against anything that could, you know, go pear-shaped like we've talked about, or is it going to be a full-on prepper style pantry where you oh gosh, hang on, Jane, I'll get to you in a minute. Delaney had herrings. Yeah, no. Okay, I'll pop that there, so I'll see. I'll be in a minute. So that you know what you're going to stockpile. Jane asked, do I include seeds as part of your pantry food security? Okay, jumping ahead. This is all on our website in the Members Centre, but I'll run through. My pantry is divided into different categories, obviously. So I have things like the tins. So it's baked beans, baking paper, cereal, which could be Riceys or Wheat Bix or all bran or rolled oats, choc bits and melts. Boy, have they gone up in price. Cling wrap, condiments, things like coleslaw dressing that I buy because I don't make it, herbs and spices, honey, jams. Well, I make jams. So Nutella. I used to have a lot of Nutella, well, 6 jars. When the kids were little, we don't tend to eat it, but we do eat a lot more peanut butter now. Peppercorns, salt. Salt is very important. Spices, Vegemite, corn flour. Then your tin soups like tomato and cream of chicken. Dried fruits. I've got cherries, dates, mixed fruits, sultanas are the things that I use mostly in the dried fruits. Apricots, coffee, tea, cordial. And don't say, no, we don't need cordial because we don't drink it, because if your water supply goes out and you are carting water and having to boil it and purify it, you need something in it because it will taste awful. It will not be like your nice fresh tap water. So cordial helps with that. And when we're away and we're refilling the water tanks in our camper with whatever water's around, always make sure we have, we filter it through a jug first before we drink it. And then I always make sure I've got either tea or coffee or cordial to go into it because it's awful. It can be really quite brackish and horrible. So don't discount having cordial in your pantry if you are building a pantry for a disaster situation, because not everybody is. We all have different reasons. Then there's the flours. Now, I have gluten flour, plain flour, self-raising flour. I have spelt flours, wholemeal and white, and I have wholemeal self-raising as well. Icing sugar, then all the beans, the black beans, the soup mix, the kidney beans, the split peas, all those sorts of things. Your sugars, molasses, I mentioned honey, your white sugar, those sorts of things. I keep mustard, prepared mustard on the shelf, and lots of nuts, because nuts are high in calories, high in energy, and they're reasonably good for us. And oils, olive oil, vegetable oil, pasta. We talked about this last week. I have quite a stash of pasta, and we might only eat pasta once a week. I tend to only have pasta once a week on my meal plan, but it's a really handy thing to have if you need to get a meal in a hurry, and that doesn't need a lot done to it. It just needs to boil, and then you can pour something over it, or you can even eat it as it is with a little oil drizzled over it. Popcorn, powdered milk, and UHT milk. If you're building a long-term pantry, you do need to include those, but you also need to make sure that you use them and you rotate through them regularly so that they don't go off, because there is nothing more disgusting than turned UHT milk. It is gross. Rice, sauces like your barbecue, your tomato sauce, your soy sauce, sweet chili, that sort of thing. Tinned fruits. I have tuna and salmon, tinned fish. Now, so far they're not ring pull, thank goodness, so they're handy to keep on the shelf. Yeast. I keep my yeast in the freezer. I usually buy 2 kilos, 4 500-gram bags at a time, and pop it in the freezer. Now I'm trying to move away from the freezer and get more shelf-stable stuff, but I still have butter, cheese, chicken, casserole meat that hasn't been processed yet, corned beef, that sort of thing in the freezer. I throw in fruit like the strawberries this year. As I picked them, I brought them in, washed them, dried them, tossed them in the freezer when I had enough. I made jam. I did the same with the raspberries. Picked them every morning, poured them in, washed them, dried them, froze them, and when there was enough, I made jam. Apples off our tree, do the same thing. Then vegetables are good in the freezer. Sorry, if you're growing carrots, growing tomatoes, and you're not able to get them processed and made into sauce or pasta sauce or whatever, you can toss them in the freezer until you're ready to use them. You saw me a few weeks ago make the soup packs and the casserole packs with the onions and the celery and the potatoes, all those sorts of things. That's sort of our food pantry. Then I have a cleaning pantry. This will help Jane. Cleaning pantry, I have bicarb borax. I've got bug spray because I don't like bugs. Dishwasher powder, dishwashing liquid. I have eucalyptus oil, laundry soap, washing soda, vinegar, white vinegar, scrub buds. What else is there? That might be about it in the cleaning pantry. Then we've got toiletries. So you've got body wash, you've got conditioner, shampoo, deodorant, hand wash, moisturizer, mouthwash, razors, shampoo, shaving foam, soap. If you make soap, if you know how to make soap, you need to know that you've got the ingredients on hand to make soap. Toilet paper, toothbrush heads if you've got an electric toothbrush, toothbrushes if you don't, toothpaste. That's pretty much our toiletries. We don't have a lot. Then there's your first aid pantry. Your Band-Aids and bandages, betadine ointment, ginger tablets, peroxide, Imodium, isopropyl alcohol, paracetamol, saline, Savlon cream, Dettol, what's the spray? The spray bandage, Zyrtec or Telfast or Claritine or whatever if you have allergies, those sorts of things. And of course any medications you have on script that you need to keep on hand. So then, yeah, in the garden we have things like I have spare seeds, lots of seeds, and I seed save and I buy seeds. And I don't necessarily pay attention to the dates on the seeds, but I do like to use them in order, do the FIFO, first in, first out. And I tend to keep the vegetables separate from the flowers. But seeds, garden gloves. I'm hard on garden gloves, absolutely atrocious. Blades for the lawnmower, that sort of thing are part of the garden pantry too. All right, now, so, there you go. Does that answer that question? It was probably not what you wanted, but it would certainly. Leanne has, yeah. Okay, Kylie says know your shelf life, and there's a chart for that in the Members Centre. But nuts do go rancid, but keep them in your freezer. Keep them in your freezer. Hi, Melissa. How are you? Oh, hello, Marion. Back from Holland. How nice. Yes, some cans, you can always tell if a can is rusty or it's blown or bloated, you know, the top's bulged or the sides have bulged, or it's dented. I don't use it. And I get really, really upset when I go, particularly Woolworths is especially bad for this, but dented cans on the shelf nearly drive me nuts. Now, out of 12 cans of beetroot that I picked up last week, 4 of them were dented. That's cheap cans, obviously, being handled incorrectly and not doing due diligence when they're putting it on the shelf. It shouldn't be sold. So I was really annoyed, and I let them know. So yeah, they can, solid cans can too, and that's usually will only happen if there's a teeny little pinhole that we can't even see in the metal. It might have rubbed or something and let the air in so the bacteria can grow. It's really hard to get your prescription, and they're clamping down on it too, to keep ahead in your scripts. It's just, yeah, it's really, really hard, Kylie. I have the same problem. Okay. Right, just reading. Okay. Yeah, your scripts are really hard to get ahead on. Okay, now let me go back to my notes. So I can get back to where we were. So over the next week or so, if you, as you get a chance or as you're in the kitchen working, prepping dinner or whatever, just make a note of what you're using. Make a note of what's on your shopping list. I found when disaster struck, it suddenly occurred to me that I bought pretty much the same stuff every week, week after week after week. It was the same basic stuff I bought. It was how we used it that made it different. But it was pretty much the same. It was the same milk, the same cereal, butter. Those basics were the same. And even the cuts of meat were the same. It was just the way they were prepared that was different. So it was really easy then to come up with a single 1 month shopping list, because I did the shopping for a week and multiplied each thing by 4, transferred it over, and that was my monthly shopping list. I multiplied that by 3, and that gave me my quarterly shopping list. Multiplied that by 4, and that's your 12-month shopping list. It's really easy to do. It's not difficult. Is it perfect? No. That first time it won't be perfect, because there will be things that you may not have thought of, like the herbs and spices. You don't buy those all the time. But pretty much we buy the same stuff week after. Onions, potatoes, carrots, celery, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, eggplant, silver beet, eggs, cheese. We buy those things week after week after week. Apples, oranges, bananas, pears, mandarins, strawberries, raspberries. Those are the things that we buy all the time. So working out how much we need for a fortnight or a month, 3 months or 6 months or 12 months is actually quite simple. If you can't do it in your head, use a calculator. I did. Sometimes I'm just too tired to nut things out in my head. So use a calculator. But once you've got that list, then you can break it down, because obviously you're not going to go out and buy 12 months worth of food all at once. That would put a big dent in your savings, or your grocery budget anyway. So you need to do it slowly. It's going to take time. Anything worthwhile always does take time. So you do it, and you do it. If something's on half price, you're going to pay full price for it anyway, so you just buy 2. And you've got 1 to put in your pantry and 1 to use. do it slowly. You might like to allocate $5 a week just for stockpile items, and this week you might get 4 tins of tomatoes, and then put the extra. You'll need to put 4 tins of tomatoes. You'll need to add some money to it for your $5, $1.30 a tin. So you'll need to add 20 cents. Is my math right? Yeah. Or you might choose to get 2 kilos of flour, or an extra 2 kilos of rice. You might decide to get 500 grams of butter and put it in the freezer. You can build it up that way. As you do it, just make a note of what you've got and how much you've got. The other things that we really need to do, and like I said before, we're building food security, and it can be for the long term if you want it to be. And by long term, I'm meaning 10, 20 or more years. But it still needs to be used. You need to rotate through it. So first in, first out, like we do with absolutely everything else. First in, first out. Put the new stuff at the back or the bottom of the pile and use the older stuff first. Once you've got your food security, your stockpile, to the level that you want it to be, whether it be a month, 3 months, or whatever, then you will simply be replacing what you use. So you've got your 6 months supply of food, and this week you've used 2 tins of tomatoes and a packet of sugar and 250 grams of butter. So they will go on your shopping list to be replaced this week to keep your pantry full, and it will always be full. You won't run out of food. You'll have your food security there so that you know it's for however long it is. Did I say 12 months? You'll have your 12 months worth of food there. So then when something happens and you don't have the money to go shopping, that's okay. You can still eat. You can still keep yourself clean. You can still keep your home clean. It's no great drama. And if you think it's going to go longer, whatever that event is going to go longer than your pantry, you can stretch it. We're all really good at stretching things. We know how to stretch things. We can cut down a serve so it's not quite as big. We can add more water to the soup, that sort of thing. We can do that quite easily. Okay. Right. Okay. Sorry. Hi, Krista. Glad you could join us. I've got to go back. Goodness me. All right. Linen, tea towels, sheets, quilts. Yeah. All those things. If you want to see a full pantry list of what I keep, it's on the website. It's on the website, and it's broken down into categories. I even have my craft one. I have the sewing one with needles and pins and threads and zippers and buttons, bias binding, elastic, clips, hemming tape, interfacing, all that sort of stuff. Because we have different pantries. We all have different pantries. Oil does keep better, but oil in tins. If you can get your oil in tins, that's absolutely the best way to keep it if you're planning to store it. Again, it is something that does need to be rotated. Oil in glass bottles is okay, but oil in plastic nearly drives me insane. And if you can't get it in tins, at least try to get tinted, the dark brown or the dark green, because light is the enemy of oil. So you really need to look for it, because it's really hard to find oil in tins these days. Now, on that note, I haven't seen it myself, but I understand that the Costco Kirkland olive oil has dropped in price. Now, I'm not sure whether that was a special or whether it was whether it has actually come down in price. If it has, woohoo. And that came from Nessa at Our Small Footprint the other day. She had she bought olive oil at Costco, and it's come down quite considerably, about $15. So that was really, really good to know. I've lost my notes. Okay. So before you, just because I'm saying you need food security, don't take my word for it. Do your own research, DYOR, do your own research and decide for yourself whether you think you need some form of food security. If you don't think so, then you don't need to do this. It's entirely up to you. Having been in the position where we've not had the money to buy food, this is something that's very, very, very important to me. Making sure the pantry is full. So I'd rather go without shoes and put food in the pantry so that my family can eat. It's a very personal thing. The other thing is it needs to contain things that you use. Just because I have certain things in my pantry doesn't mean you need to have them either. Keep what you use and use what you keep. Really important. Now, during the lockdowns, there was a whole lot of no, because you need to have this, and just because you don't use widgets doesn't mean you shouldn't have them, because you can trade them for someone else, and that's great. If your pantry is built, if your food security is at the level where you want it to be, and you have the spare cash to maybe invest in a few widgets to put away in case someone wants to trade them for something that you don't have, then you can do it. But if your food security, if your pantry is not at the level where you want it to be, you can't do that. You fill it with food and items that you use, that you need, that you like, and then you make sure you use them. And that I will not back down on. It's all very well and good to say you can have, 2 bottles of scotch because scotch is really good for bartering. I'm sure it is. But having 2 bottles of scotch on the shelf when your kids are hungry isn't going to help you. So fill your pantry first, then you can think about the extras if that's the way you are thinking, if you are thinking of a prepper style pantry. I am not thinking of that. I don't consider myself a prepper. I am a preparer, but I am not a prepper. I like to be prepared. I like to know that, if a giant orange rolls down the road and takes out all the power, I like to know that I don't have to panic about the freezers because there's really not that much in them, and I can always break out the dehydrator and the canner and get going. I like to be prepared. I don't necessarily have that mindset that there's a huge disaster about to happen. I don't want to live with that fear. So, but I do, I do like to be prepared. And I will say the one thing I will stress to you is only stock what you need, use, and like, and make sure that you use it. First in, first out. Really, really important. If you've got a full pantry, it could be bursting at the seams to overflowing, And if it's all stuff that you don't need, that you don't use, that like Fiona, Patricia said she had a tin that was something that she didn't use very often, it's just wasted money. Remember years ago, I did an ACCA thing, and I had them in stitches because we were trying to think of an example. Perfect example. Just because smoked oysters in tomato sauce are 10 cents a can doesn't mean you need to run out and buy 2 cases of it, especially if you don't like them or you only use 1 tin once a year. It might be 10 cents a tin, could be a really good bargain, but if you don't use it, it's a waste of money and a waste of space. So plan your pantry around what you need, use, and like. Do you keep freeze-dried foods in packets, i.e. jerky, as another option? Okay, if you've got freeze-dried foods, if you've run your food through the freeze dryer, it needs to be kept airtight and moisture-proof. So you'll need oxygen absorbers and you'll need moisture absorbers. You can either keep it in Mylar, you can vacuum seal it in jars. Mylar's better if you want long-term because it keeps the light out. Jars are great if you're only going to have them on the shelf for a few months. The food the light will affect the quality of the food. Freeze drying, there's a whole learning curve with freeze drying. So sort of like we do with our dehydrating, be a bit particular about how you store it, but it does need to be kept moisture proof, obviously because it's dried, and airtight. Okay. The Woolies cocoa is still quite reasonable, Fiona, if you can get to a Woolies. It's the Woolies brand. And if you don't drink, what are you going to do with it? I mean, hello. Alcohol is good for bartering. If, you know, you might need chickens and someone might need scotch, you could probably trade, although you'd probably have to give them the 2 bottles of scotch for 1 chicken. Chickens are really expensive at the moment, but you can trade with it. But if your pantry's not full, if you're not happy with where it's at, if you don't think, okay, if I can't go shopping tomorrow for 6 weeks, I don't have to worry, then don't stock things that you're not going to have to go. I've lost my train of thought because I just read Marion's going to feed her grandchildren. You know, I hope they enjoy their lunch, Marion. Glad you could join us again. It was lovely to see you. Okay, so there you go. Plan your food security. Now, last week, I can't swing you around and show you because it's dark in the corner. Last week, I did a lot of canning. June is canning month. June and July are my big pressure canning months because it's cold, so I don't mind standing in the kitchen doing the chopping and whatever and getting stuff in the can or having the stove going. But it's cold and wet and I don't work outside as much, so I tend to do a lot of preserving in winter. A lot of stuff gets preserved in winter. So last week I did a corned beef, and yes, I know corned beef is not an approved pressure canning thing. I did roasting beef. I did the tri-tip. That big piece of, or those big pieces of tri-tip that I had last week all got canned. And I did more mince. and 6 kilos of chicken that I actually turned into chicken stew in jars. So there's chicken in the bottom, and then I've got diced potatoes, onions, celery, and carrots on the top. I poured the hot stock over and pressure canned those. So those are quart jars of chicken stew. It just needs to be thickened once it's opened. And if I wanted to make it soup, I'd just add more stock. There you go. Shred the chicken and add more stock to make it soup. I could make it pie filling by thickening it up a little bit more with a roux rather than a sauce. There's all sorts of things. So that was what I did last week. I have more chicken in the fridge to do this week. So 50 kilos of rice wouldn't go far. I buy about that a year, Kylie. So that was my big thing, because June is my big preserving month. So remember back, I've done a couple of shows on what my canning plans are, with what I need for the year and what I plan to do it. I've also got, I went through the outside freezer and put all the berries to the top. So I've got more jam to do this week, which will be really good because that'll shift some sugar off the shelf. Because we don't use a lot of sugar. I don't really use sugar in jams, marmalades, and it's citrus season, so the oranges have been really nice. We've been eating them, too nice for marmalade. So we might be doing that this week too. Kylie says she wondered during lockdown at all the full trolleys, do they know how to use plain flour, what semolina is for, the 50 kilos of rice they bought. I think a lot of people panicked. It was like trying to get yeast. It was almost impossible to get yeast during lockdown. All sorts of things were just bizarre things were missing off the shelves. So, yeah. All right. And that's it. That's how you plan your food security. You build it into your grocery budget. You build it into your regular shopping routine. You decide how long it's going to last you. Then you work out what you need. Now, like I said, I haven't got the links here, but all those, my lists are on our website. I'll put the links to them underneath me on our website, and that might give you a bit of a boost. I know I plan on 2 tins of tomato soup a week, which means I need 104 tins a year. I plan on 2 tins of baked beans a week, which means I need 104 tins for a year, if that helps you. 1 packet of pasta a week, 52 packets for the year. Now, this is in our food storage. This is not a regular, I don't run out and do that, buy all that at once. That's in our food storage. I do tend to buy my herbs and spices in bulk. I did the herb order last week. So I just buy a kilo at a time, because we go through, we like food with flavor. So we use lots of herbs and spices in our meals. All right. Okay. So there you go. We might actually get finished early this week. No more questions. Okay, no more questions. Then I will say good night. I'll go and do my coughing exercises so I can sleep tonight. Before we go, if you've liked this video, thumbs up please, would be really appreciated. If you're not already subscribed to our channel, hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, and it just means that we let you know when there's a new video coming up, whether it be live or recorded. And if you know someone who you think might like this video, there's a share link, a share button that will send them a link. We don't harass them. I just You just do it, and that's it. Easy peasy. And we have, just quickly, let me see. We're so close to 6,000 subscribers that I'm really busting. Internet's a bit like me, Shania, it's a bit slow. Analytics. Let me check it. We have 5,853 subscribers, so I need 147 subscribers to hit 6,000. So I'll do another giveaway when we hit 6,000, I think. I have to think of something. What did we have last time we did the dehydrator, didn't we? Let's see, if we hit 6,000, I'll think of something. All righty. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Have a great week. Plan your food storage. Get started with it. Doesn't take long. It's not difficult. A few minutes. We'll get it done for you. I'll be back next week, 7:30, same time. And I don't know what we'll talk about. We'll talk about something. Okay. Happy cheap skating, everyone. Have a great week.